Good evening from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. Welcome to the Kelly Wright Show, where we always seek to inform, entertain, and inspire you. As always, we've got a lot to discuss on today's program, and we'll have your headlines in just a moment. But first, my opening observations. COVID-19, better known as the coronavirus, is still top of mind for so many people throughout the world. As I have mentioned before in this program, this pandemic is causing major disruptions in the way we live our daily lives, and all of us are talking about it, praying about it, and looking to our health experts and government leaders to help resolve this problem. But some countries are completely on lockdown. Take, for example, Italy. Even the Vatican is closed to tourists now. Also, Italy has suspended the payment of mortgages. Throughout the Middle East, mosques are being disinfected and public times of prayers are being canceled. It's really a problem for so many people, but the question is, will this extreme measure to control the spread of the deadly virus have a rolling effect throughout other countries? Will we lose all freedom to travel, and how will the world markets overcome the disruption to the global economy? Here in the United States, will a payroll tax cut proposed by the president get more money into your paycheck? Will that be enough to stimulate business for restaurants, airlines, trains, cruise ships, and more that have been impacted by the coronavirus? Will a boost in pay really stop the panic, the fear, and alleviate the spread of the coronavirus? So many questions and so few answers, because we may not have a vaccine available for at least a year. But as I peruse social media, I couldn't help but notice that many posts on the coronavirus are pointing to prayer and the power of it, literally asking God for help in this situation. Not to get too preachy with you, but perhaps they have a point. You see, regardless of your faith, and it's my observation that prayer changes things. And now, here are your headlines. The entire world is trying to combat the coronavirus. Duncan McKenzie-McCarg has this report for us from Los Angeles.
The Grand Princess docked in Oakland, on board with 3,500 people from 54 countries, some of whom have already tested positive for coronavirus.
The people that already tested positive will go ashore first, as well as people that are showing symptoms. Then the Californians, which is our group. And after that, I don't know what's going to happen.
Passengers must now be quarantined at military bases in various US states. The number of cases of the virus has increased in California and along the West Coast. Major events are being cancelled and many schools are closed, with universities opting to teach lessons online. Elsewhere, Italy now has the second highest amount of confirmed cases after China. Heavy travel restrictions are in place there, and people are being told not to leave their homes, even to go to work. Global markets are suffering, with shares falling dramatically, and there are fears it could even trigger a global recession. But the Trump administration says the right steps are being taken to minimise risk in America. The president also says that workers won't be taking an economic hit.
We're also going to be talking about hourly wage earners getting help so that they can be in a position where they're not going to ever miss a paycheck.
Reassuring words for many perhaps, although Californians are sceptical.
I have a concern about coronavirus because the healthcare insurance doesn't cover the medical bills.
Well, don't shake anybody's hand and probably don't hug people.
Health officials say that testing kits will be made available for some people and containment measures will be tightened. But Los Angeles has already reported its first case of community-spread coronavirus, and keeping people safe here will be a difficult challenge. I'm Duncan McKenzie-McCarg reporting for The Kelly Wright Show.
Thanks, Duncan. Experts say fever, coughing, and shortness of breath are symptoms to be on the lookout for. Senator Bernie Sanders and former Vice President Joe Biden are battling it out to be the Democratic nominee. Michigan, Missouri, Mississippi, Washington State, Idaho, and North Dakota will vote today. And that's a look at your day's top stories. We'll be back with more of the show right after this. For the past 20 years, our next guest has been at the forefront for civil rights and women's rights. Melanie Campbell is the CEO of the National Coalition for Black Civic Participation. Melanie, welcome to the program today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you first and foremost how it all started for you. We can get into the politics in just a moment.
Yes. Well, it started for me where I'm from, Mims, Florida. It's the home of Harry and Harriet T. Moore, whose homes were bombed in the 50s. Yeah. So I had a family that was really active, and especially my father, Isaac Campbell, was very active in community, dealing with civil rights, and so I kind of grew up around it without knowing that was what I would do for a living. I actually went to Atlanta and studied business and was in corporate America for a while, but I got very active in community in Atlanta in that civil rights space. And so I looked up one day and realized I wanted to get into something different. I worked for Maynard Jackson's last administration.
Loved him.
And loved him. That was my best job ever, right? And then, all these other things I had done, working with voting and voting rights and things like that, was like things I did on the side. It turned it into 25 years ago, I ended up coming to Washington, D.C., to be the deputy director for a year and a half and leave and go back to Atlanta. But I've been out here 25 years.
And now you're stuck. Can't get rid of you.
Oh, I'm still a Southern girl at heart, though.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. And all that Southern charm keeps coming through, and it's helped you tremendously in so many areas. It helped all of us. We benefited from your work, and that's why I want to start there, because I consider you a modern-day trailblazer. Now, having said that,
that's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. No pressure. It's the Kelly Wright Show. Everything is woosah.
I need a woosah morning today.
So how do we deal with the primary that's coming up, especially Michigan? A lot of people are looking at that. Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders. Where do you think it's going to happen? What's going to happen there?
Well, I was in South Carolina before that primary with our Black Women's Roundtable. We had a power to sister vote town hall. Yeah. And I was also in Selma, Alabama, right before they voted in with a lot of those southern states. So I think you're going to see a little bit of what happened that last Tuesday. Tomorrow. Our Black Women's Roundtable, we actually have a lot of work going on in Michigan, so I can speak to that. And Black women, we just hosted our Women of Power National Summit last week. Yeah. And so I know there's a lot of energy around this election, and Black women. We focus on Black women and young people. So men and women, but Black women especially, because we know our vote carries a lot of weight.
See, I'm glad you talked about that. Not to interrupt you, but do you think, depending on how the outcome of today,
yes,
depending on that, Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden, will they have to choose an African American running mate? And if so, should it be a Black woman, given the fact of the powerful voting bloc that Black women have become?
I would say surely the women that I'm talking to would like to have a real preference to see a Black woman, not just any Black woman, but a Black woman who could help carry that ticket. Now, I'm nonpartisan, so I'm not for or against anybody. So we'll get real clear at that. Keep my tax stats, right? I'm just saying from an analyst, I do analysis around politics, and so I think the energy that I saw in South Carolina, in Alabama, especially also because it was right before, it was Bloody Sunday commemoration, that the conversations we're hearing, people are looking, they want to see a power shift. And I think Black women, I had a little concern. People saying, whoa, the people in the South, they're voting. These are older people. They don't quite get it. They don't have an agenda. I'm like, oh, no, we have an agenda. Yeah. I live in Virginia, so I voted last Tuesday myself, personally. I didn't make up my mind personally until I was in South Carolina, and I could pay attention. I'm paying attention with all these other things with my job. I had to stop and pay attention for myself. I'm not going to tell you who I voted for, because that would be a problem with my job. But the reality is that at the end of the day, Black women are strategic. Black people are strategic with our vote, right? And so I don't think any of us should be out here saying whether people voted because they didn't quite understand. These were the grandmothers and they just don't understand. They have nostalgia. No, I'm one of those women over 50, and I'm like, no, I don't vote based on nostalgia. I base my vote on strategic decisions about who am I gonna be able to when they win. I don't have to like them. I just need to know if I can shift and get you to focus on my issues. Can I have an opportunity to be at the table?
At the table.
Right, to help you make decisions.
And do we have that with the current administration?
Absolutely not. You know, I've never been, I'm not to say I would go, but I've never been invited. The only anybody I know ever has been invited in 3+ years to sit down with this administration. And I've been here long enough to know that I've been in rooms with Republicans and Democrats, okay, right, in that White House, because it is our house, right?
It's the people's house.
It's the people's house.
So, Melanie, we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Yes, we do.
Okay, on all sides, Republican and Democrat, to make this country more effective.
Right.
Okay.
We
Melanie
do.
Campbell.
Thank you.
Come back, please.
Oh, most definitely. I'm just around the corner.
She is Melanie Campbell. We thank you so much for the great
Thank
work
you.
you're doing, not just for Black women, but Black Americans and all Americans for that matter.
Okay, and thank you for allowing us to have a voice and being a voice.
We're striving hard,
Okay.
striving for excellence. All right. Thank you so much, and we'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back. You may recognize our next guest from the show Greenleaf. Julian Burton Oh and his wife Kari are also entrepreneurs who own a 60,000 square foot studio in North Carolina and are working diligently to provide opportunities in the media industry for people everywhere. Welcome to the show. It's so good to see both of you.
Thank you.
Likewise, thank you.
You know, you're such a striking looking couple, and here you are like a power team working together to empower others. What motivated you to get involved in this industry to do exactly what you're doing now, Julian?
Well, I've always been a huge fan and ambassador of the arts as a whole. And I believe if individuals are able to express themselves and tap into that creative side of themselves, then they can identify some new levels to what they can do and things like that. And once you can tap into a person's heartstring with themselves and their creativity, sky's the limit. A person can see themselves moving forward.
Kari, I like the way your husband unpacks that. You can tap into the heartstring of what a person's desire is, and from there you can accomplish just about anything. When you see that kind of energy and passion in your husband, what role do you play in accomplishing the same goal?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I married him, is because of his heart. But even more so, I have a background in construction, so what I see and what interacts with me is just being able to make it practical and actually make it into something that's obtainable and bring it to life.
That's fantastic. So here I see this wonderful couple doing some great things together. And one of the things you're working in is called over-the-top streaming industry, which to many of us in the business, we know it as OTT. Tell me how that comes together in building your studio and building your plan to set forth your agenda and have a platform for the world.
Well, anybody that knows that OTT is referring to streaming services and providers. So it kind of just came out of us organically and what we were doing and working with the local communities and workforce and understanding the future of OTT, which is relatively soon, in the next 4 years or so, supposed to grow to a market of about $200 billion.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge market share that needs to be tapped into by people in certain communities that have been underserved, underutilized, people are unemployed and underemployed. So we figured that, again, utilizing the logistics from construction and the creativity from a production set, where different communities can take ownership and control the narrative coming from their communities, and they can create stories and content that can possibly be picked up for acquisitions from any one of these many OTT streaming services.
I'm nodding my head in approval of you because you're right on the point, and in fact, a lot of people do not realize the value involved in streaming services, but you're already tapping into that. And in addition to that, guys, you're also involved in Opportunity Zone fund groups. We're hearing a lot about Opportunity Zones. They've been on the market now for a couple of years, but it's now getting into the vernacular for African American businesses. Tell me about your Opportunity Zone group and how that's helping people throughout the state of North Carolina.
Well, what it is we believe that people of color and they mostly, all of the census tracts where the opportunity zones have been deemed and designated affect people of color, bottom line. And we believe in entrepreneurship and small business development and workforce development at its core, because once you can identify these individuals, give them the assistance they need, give them the resources they need, pour it back into the communities, the capitalization and all, again, they can then start to take the reins and create a sustainable ecosystem for themselves instead of looking for, government assistance and things like that, and just accepting the norm. And it doesn't have to be the norm. We can all raise the bar in this way.
Okay. Well, look, I got to get ready to go, but before I go, I've got to ask you just a real quick 2 questions, and that is, what are you doing in terms of producing this year's Miss Black America 2020, and what are you doing with your new TV series that's coming out that you're producing right there?
Well, for Miss Black America, it's been an honor to host the founder, Mr. John Anderson, and his daughter, Lita Anderson, who's the director. They came in last week, did a city site visit. They're looking for a new home, and through mutual relationships, we're able to bring them in and look to launch it out this year, kicking off with the 51st anniversary. And regarding the TV pilot, which is a project that we shot here in High Point, North Carolina, with the workforce that we developed as of last year. So right now we have the pilots in post-production. We do have a trailer pitched together, so we just doing what we got to do.
Julian and Kari, thank you both. Really have a lot of love and appreciation for all that you're doing. Mad love to you and respect for what you're doing down there in North Carolina. Julian and Kari, and just come back on the show. Let us know what you're doing. We want to follow you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be watching you as well.
Okay.
Thank you. We're having more for your show, for the Kelly Wright Show, after we take a quick break. Welcome back. My next guest is political analyst Dr. Cleo Minako, who has been examining the history of slavery in the Caribbean and the United States. He recently returned from Haiti and joins us now to talk about this. Doctor, good of you to join us today.
Good to see you again.
So you traveled to Haiti and you uncovered a lot of the history as it relates to the slave trade.
Yeah.
Tell us about it and what inspired you to go out and actually bring this story to light.
Well, I have heard about Haiti for years, many years, and as you mentioned, I have been studying slavery and doing a footprint retrospect and research on the issue for many years, and actually going all over the world where slavery took place. But Haiti has a very, very powerful history that I kept hearing about, but I want to see it for myself. And I'm familiar with Jean-Jacques Dessalines and with Toussaint Louverture and with Henry Christophe and with Susan Blair and Cecile Soliman. I have to mention their names because what women did in the revolution is rarely ever talked about. Henry Christophe built this. Have you seen the Game of Thrones before?
Yes.
You know those majestic sets with the drawbridges? Black folks built something for real, just like that stuff. There's some images that I sent to your producer of me being at the Citadel in Haiti, and it's hardly any words. That's why I use Game of Thrones, which is fiction. The Citadel is real. with the drawbridge, the cannons, the wall, and it's the biggest fortress in the Americas. I had no idea about the Citadel before I went. And before you get to the Citadel, you go to the Palace of Sanssouci, who built both the Citadel and his palace, who was the king, the first king in Haiti. And this history is so amazing, and we know nothing about it.
Well, Dr. Minako, I love that you're bringing this history to light, because a lot of times when we reflect on Haiti, it's about the problems that they're mired with, the quagmire of having so many natural disasters, and then the poverty that exists there, and sometimes the Haitian on Haitian crimes that take there, which are criminal, and just a stark poverty. But you're talking about a richness that's also there. How do you help Haitians understand the power of their history, as well as teach us to appreciate it, so that we can then reach out and embrace them and touch them beyond their poverty and lift them up?
Well, I did a lot of that work while I was in Haiti, as I plan to continue to do that work here. But the first thing that has to occur is context. You mentioned earlier that there's poverty there. Well, the poverty in Haiti is not just there.
Right.
It's a result of sanctions. It's a result of the country being under attack. It's also, from my perspective, if you know the whole history, a consequence of European vengeance because of what Dessalines and Toussaint Louverture did.
Yeah.
They said, y'all won. I mean, Haiti's the first modern country to successfully revolt against slavery from a peasant perspective, who rose up beyond that successfully against their enslavers. They did this.
And then years of sanctions imposed upon them, where people refusing to trade with them because they won their freedom.
To this day. And some of that poverty that you're talking about is a result of those sanctions and interruptions of the Haitian government. You remember Aristide?
Right.
Who was disrupted. So Haiti's not sitting there neutrally without having to face resistance. They are under attack, and that's part of the reason why there is the poverty, because the place is rich. It's rich with resources, it's rich with beauty, it's rich with intelligence, but the people there are suffering. But it's important that we know our history, and we also need to understand the resistance.
This is enlightening what you've brought to us, and it exposes a part of our history right here in our Western Hemisphere about the country that stood up against tyranny and against enslavement and actually won and fought for their freedom. I thank you for bringing it to light on the Kelly Wright Show. We got to follow up on this. I'm sure there's a documentary in the works somewhere that you're working on. So we'll love to have you. Dr. Cleo Minako, thank you for enlightening us about our neighbors just to the south of us in Haiti.
Thanks for inviting me.
The work that they are doing to try to rebuild their land.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Back with more of the Kelly Wright Show after this. Welcome back. Everyone wants to make sure their hair and makeup are on point. Well, Glenn Jackson is just the person to do that and to help you get that glow and that look that you're looking for. Welcome to the program, Glenn.
Thank you. Thank you. Honored to be here.
Oh, I'm honored to have you. So tell me about you personally and how you got involved in making people look their best, because you've been doing it for a while now.
Oh my God, this will be our 26th year celebrating the amazing golden scissors. And so it was really an accident, you know. I appeared here in the District of Columbia. I was in the United States Navy, and I was invited to a hair show. That's where this journey started. And the commentator didn't show up. And so the lady says, I'm finished today. I says, well, what does a commentator do? She said, they talk. I said, talk about what? She's like, hair. I said, well, I can talk. I don't know nothing about hair. It's been 26 years later.
So as a result of your experience, what is it you like to pass on to people in terms of understanding how they can be their best selves and look like their best selves?
Well, I think the most important part when you say hair show, people think this is a community space that kind of meshes together the cultures, and it brings communities together. So everybody wants to look good. So we have found that everyday people, just like celebrities, want to look good. And so the hair show became this landscape for people to come out and really showcase their best self. And barbers and stylists all over the country has participated over the years. I've had thousands of people through our doors over the years. And we've given away hundreds of thousands of dollars directly back to the
Now,
community.
is that through Golden Scissors?
Through Golden Scissors, correctly.
And tell me more about Golden Scissors. One, I love the name.
Yeah, well, when we started Golden Scissors, they were far from golden. They was wooden scissors, and I just spray painted them gold. But I wanted to come up with something that would honor stylists and barbers for excellence. And it was so important that we do something that was great, that they would honor and cherish. I would have never in 100 years would have imagined 7 television shows have been inspired by the Golden Scissors platform after 26 years. It's been an amazing journey. We've given away salons.
Wow.
We did Hair Idol with the singer Brandy here in the city, 5 cities across America. In Atlanta, we gave away over $210,000 directly back to stylists. We flew in about 25 of them from all over the United States. It's been an amazing ride.
So what does that tell you about our culture, and specifically our culture, how we're enamored with our hair? I mean, well, every culture is. Let's break that down.
Yeah.
But we pay close attention to our grooming and how
Yes.
well we look and how we present ourselves. I think it speaks well of us.
Yeah, it
as a
speaks
people.
that, you know, that old saying, look good at all costs. If you're leaving your house, your mama say, is your hair done? I mean, I think we are kind of embedded in that culture of looking good. And I think what has made Golden Scissors such a staple in the country is because not only do we look good, but we have held the companies accountable where we spend our money. This is a billion-dollar industry.
See, that's the key. Now we're striking on that nerve, because it's almost like politics. If you're going to run for courting the black vote, then show up and deliver something to Black America. So to these businesses that take our money
and give us nothing back
and give us nothing back in return, what are you saying to corporate America?
We have the power. We have the power. And I tell people that every single time through this hair show, people's like, oh, this is not just a hair show. This is a life culture show. We are so bad at what we do, and I mean, we do it and we do it well. In Miami, Florida, at the Miami-Dade, I called it Election Sunday before Barack Obama got elected. We had 8,000 people show up at the Miami-Dade Convention Center.
Wow.
So stylists and barbers are constantly reaching people, and what I share with them is that's power. When you pull all of those resources together, you as the barber or the stylist, you have the power to make change. You know, the Korean community, who made so much money off of what Black women were doing with their hair, I was just shocked that they would come to me to do something for the community. And I can attest, they gave millions of dollars directly back over 10 years, directly back to this community.
That's fantastic. And let's talk about the culture of hairstyling. My mother was a hairstylist, and I saw how people would come to her shop, her salon, her barbershop, and coalesce around her, and everyone talking, watching brothers and sisters talk about life. And I just remember sitting at the feet of so many adults who became like mentors to me.
Yeah.
That culture still exists.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I always call it the healing chair.
The healing chair.
I mean, that's where women would come for their fixing. If their spirit was broken, they would go to their
Women
hairstyle.
and men.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so I was laughing because the show was early. I flew in last night. I got here about 1 o'clock. So I go to Melvin the barber, and we're talking, and he's doing my hair. I said, when you can't get a plastic surgeon, just get a good barber. And so it was funny. So Melvin said to me, he says, you know, we have a barber here in our shop that is 90 years old.
Oh, man, that's fantastic.
And he's still cutting hair.
You got to hold that thought. We're going to come back with some more, because there's a lot more that you've done in terms of helping people, and we want to talk more about that. We're back with more after this.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back. So I'm here with hair and makeup expert Glenn Jackson, and we were talking about so much that goes on in our community as it relates to our hair and our makeup, but there's also social issues that you have impacted and used your influence to help people. Tell me about that, because that's really indicative of the power that hairstylists and barbers have in our community.
Well, I mean, it's our core, it's our DNA. I wanted to make sure that our show made a statement. Not only that we just got on stage and did hair, but we did more. And we used this platform to bring communities together. And so whether it's in Miami, we're bringing the Latin community together, whether we're bringing Latinos and African Americans together.
Love that.
Even though when people want to be different, there's so much about them that are the same. And they are being meshed together by hair. And so if it's a Dominican Golden Scissors Awards, wow factor. And so when I went to the Dominican Republic, I noticed that these kids were just so devastated in poverty. But I wanted my kids here in the United States to realize that we're also poor, that even though you think your situation is bad, it's not as bad as somebody else until you get an opportunity to meet them. So I had the kids with the kids program to do a showcase. And all of the clothes that we would garnish from that showcase that they showcased, we took it to a third world country. And that spawned at our 501c3, which was Global Kids. And it was so amazing because I look at these kids who have come through our program, like Melanie Hurd, our lyric Hurd. Melanie just got casted to do the Kevin Hart movie, Fatherhood. They all came from our umbrella.
Awesome.
This is where these kids bonded. So this platform has been great as a building place for self-esteem building for our community, because a lot of times these opportunities just don't exist.
And what did you do in Ferguson?
Ferguson was kind of important to me. I was invited to come there for the Annie Malone celebration. And Annie Malone was probably one of the richest black women in St. Louis. She had as much mail as a U.S. mail leaving out almost every single day, over 40,000 delegates, black. She owned a hotel in this business. She had the Poorer College. I mean, she was just an amazing person. And Madam C.J. Walker worked with her and then became great. But as the history books would tell you, they would say Madam C.J. Walker, but Annie Malone was just amazing. So as a hair element, I would go to Ground Zero to bring this amazing hair show, where of course we were instrumental in helping Mr. Bell, who went on to be the prosecutor for Ferguson for Ground Zero. And see how all of this stuff just start to kind of mesh together, and I'm like sitting here and I'm sitting in the middle of Sweetie Pie's restaurant. And so it's all would have never happened if it wasn't for hair. And we did that partnership with the great people at Shea Moisture and Rich Lou Dennis, who owns Essence Magazine. That was a big part of our community giving.
How can we continue? I mean, this show is all about lifting people up. We like to inform people, entertain them, and inspire them. And I see you doing the same thing. How can we see more of this? Because we need to bring more of this to the table. My plight with mainstream America and mainstream news organizations is that they have always marginalized or overlooked the power of the black community, not just in its buying power and consuming power, but also in its influence. I can recall being in Iraq and hearing hip hop being played, not by American soldiers, but by Iraqi children. And I've seen them follow the stylings of black Americans. So we have a positive influence beyond the borders of this country. And I don't think that's always appreciated in this country.
And it's funny that you say that, because I was just talking with the young lady in the green room, and I was just saying that I saw a show, and they were talking to Brandy and Ray J, and they went to Ray J and Brandy, and they asked about Kim Kardashian's braids. And I was just literally, because I am 52 years old, so my mindset, the way I think, is totally different.
Right.
And I'm like, here's Ray J, this young man who has a tech company that's worth over $11 million. Here is Brandy, an accomplished artist, and you're asking her about Kim Kardashian's braids. It just goes to show you how our culture works better for other people than it works for us.
So what can we do to change that? Because you're already out there doing it. This show seeks to do it as well.
I think the start point is talking about it,
Right.
acknowledging our own value, restoring the value in our own communities, helping to better celebrate what we do, and getting out of that culture of, I want you to be successful.
Yeah.
Your success is my success. And I think when people start working through that process, we start realizing that we have so much to offer if given the opportunity.
Glenn, I want to thank you for
Thank
all
you for
that you're
having me.
doing.
Thank you.
You're so proactive and so inspirational, and you're so stylish. So
Well, thank you, sir.
you're welcome here anytime.
Yes,
We
I
got
think what
mad
you
love
guys
for
are
you.
doing is amazing. I think you're
Thank you.
providing a voice for the voiceless, and just keep being a blessing to our communities. Well needed.
Well taken.
Yeah.
Point well taken.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having
Everybody,
me.
make sure you check him out wherever you go. Glenn Jackson. We'll be back with more right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. So my next guest is an accomplished TV personality and multi-talented pop solo artist. Her name is Kanika. She's also the front singer for a rock ska band, the Upstarters. Now, her meaningful and provocative music with themes ranging from love, social issues, and partying until the sun comes up show through memorable and upbeat lyrics and dynamic live performances. Performing alongside world-famous bands. As a native of Baltimore, Maryland, Kanika is regarded not only for her community advocacy, but her ability to navigate a successful indie career that's creating a lot of noise and much buzz in the entertainment world. Kanika, that is quite a pedigree of all of your accomplishments thus far. What's next for you?
Oh, the sky's the limit, right?
It is.
Just as
Take
we
the
were
limits
talking about.
off.
Yeah, no shoulda, coulda, wouldas,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's been really exciting to be able to navigate the space of being a solo artist, being able to be a lead singer of a rock band, to be able to just give my voice to the space of entertainment, to do TV. I mean, it's just been an amazing ride to be a part of this right now.
And with your music, is that an extension of that creative passion?
Oh, 100%. So
Yeah.
I feel like even, especially nowadays, you really can't be that type of artist that's just in one singular lane. You really have to explore just different mediums and different ways to get your message out. Kind of like what you are doing with the Kelly Wright Show, to really be able to provide that space to give back, to give people a platform to share what they're talking about or doing. And in that same right, also developing new ways to be able to touch the community. And so music is a very intricate way of doing that, depending upon how you use your lyrics and how you use the music. And so it's been really exciting for me as a songwriter to explore the themes of love and the themes of social consciousness, the themes of being a woman, a Black woman in music, and using that as a platform to give other women that sense of pride and self-respect.
You know, that's so well said, and you're coming from an area of Baltimore. There's so many great Black women who have come out of Baltimore and influenced our music globally. I mean, I'm thinking of the likes of Nina Simone and so many other contemporary people as well. And I see your career blossoming and going forward. What's the statement you're making to the world about social issues, about love, about parenthood? Because all of those things impact not just Black women, but all women and all members of society, women,
Right.
men, and children.
Yeah, and it's tough. I think, as an independent artist, is making the choice of, do you walk in a space to talk about social consciousness, or do you focus on sensationalism and being very, very commercial and trying to walk that fine line? So with the music that I do with the Upstarters, which is more in the space of rock and ska and reggae, we actually genre fuse so many different elements into our music. It provides me that platform to say, okay, let the music speak to me. So like as a songwriter, is that particular song saying that it needs to be about women empowerment, like our song I Am, which focuses on women and saying, hey, I am a beautiful, independent, indestructible woman. And seeing women's responses to that when they see the live performance and hearing people say, oh my goodness, when I came into the show, I was feeling really down and out, or I was going through this or that. I didn't understand that I was a beautiful woman. But seeing you as a woman perform that, hearing the words about about being happy and letting the world know that we can live together as one gives me new inspiration. So I think it's a choice that you have to make as an artist to live in your truth and then let people define it, I guess, the way they want to. But as long as you are being truthful to yourself, then you can be conscious and commercial at the same time.
I love it. I love it. And I think with what you're doing with your music is transcending cultures.
Oh, yeah,
And
you have to.
You have to.
Yeah, you do.
And in this day and age, a lot of people, it's kind of like when we grew up, and as we were growing up, we could all talk together or just talk over each other. And they would say, hey, we can sing together, we can't always talk together. So music has a way of cutting through the noise.
Oh, 100% so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would have never guessed that at first because when I started out in doing music, I was really focused on R&B and hip hop, poetry, really neo soul. And so in working with the Upstarters, I was introduced to alternative rock and pop and ska. And so I never would have thought that the audience type would have been a little bit different. And I think that there's still the conversation of being a Black woman in a lot of performance halls that don't always have Black performers in this genre of music or Black women or women, period, is being able to make that statement to say, hey, my voice still matters. What I'm performing on stage can still be connectable. I mean, you know, people can still feel that energy and feel what the message we're saying. It shouldn't be about color, it's just about having a really, really good time. And so it's the time right now for us to kind of break those walls of gentrification even in music to be able to allow other artists to have these platforms.
Well, I'm just so glad to have you here, Kanika. And you were talking about how things do matter. It's not really about the color, but we're going to talk about a song that you have coming back from this break about Black lives having a matter. And the reason why you wrote that is?
Because Black lives matter. Your life matters, my life matters, his life matters. Black lives still matter in 2020. And we can never forget that coming out of Black History Month and coming into Women's Month.
Her name is Kanika. We're going to come back with her song and My Final Word right after this. Welcome back, and now my final word. But before I get to that, I want to thank our guest, Kanika, who's going to close us out with a wonderful song called Black Lives Matter. And speaking of that, let's talk about the fact that your life, my life, all of our lives really matter, especially in this age of the dread and fear about coronavirus. Before you let panic spread, before you let fear overrule your sense of worth and value, understand that love triumphs over all. That is our strength. In the end, love is stronger. Therefore, as I always like to say, you've been righted, ignited, and united to keep on spreading love, freedom, and peace, not fear. And we leave you now with Kanika and Black Lives Matter. Peace.
Black lives matter, all lives matter, your life matters, my lives matter, and if Black lives don't matter to you, they matter to us.
This time, don't tell me you're sorry. Then it happens again, and again, Alton Starlet, and again, and again, and again, and again. So who's gonna stop it? Police must stop it. We the people gonna stop it. This is how we're gonna stand up, speak out, protesting peacefully as we shout out, Black lives matter. All lives matter. His life matters, my life it matters, your life matters. Black lives matter. All lives matter. It matters today. His life matters, my life it matters, your life matters. It all lives matter. And for the men in blue, your lives too.